successor agency to the redevelopment agency, Public Finance Authority, Public Utility Authority, Housing Authority, Paris Joint Powers Authority, and the Paris Community Economic Development Corporation of the City of Paris. This Tuesday, May 16, 2023, at 6:32 p.m. Madam Clerk, can we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Rabb.
Here.
Councilmember Rogers.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Nava.
Here.
Councilmember Corona.
Here.
Mayor Vargas.
Present, thank you. Item 3 is our Pledge of Allegiance. Councilmember Rad, would you please lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance?
Please join me as I salute our nation's flag. Place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin.
Okay, and just for transparency purposes, our meeting this evening was posted as being located in the council chambers, but then on the posting, it showed that on the agenda portion that we were going to be in the council chambers conference room, which we are not. We have posted a sign there saying we are actually over here in the chambers, so just wanted to point that out. And with that, we're going to move right into our work session. Item 4. 4A is discussion regarding the draft fiscal year 2023, 2024, and 2024, 2025 operating budget, which will be introduced by Director of Finance, Matthew Schenk.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council. Yes, tonight we are having a budget workshop session in preparation for the city's new two-year budget for fiscal years 2023 and 24 and 24-25. Some of the topics we're going to cover tonight is the budget timeline. I've only got 135 slides, so we'll get through them. I'm just kidding. Some of the key considerations we must consider when making this budget. A breakdown of the general fund revenues and expenditures. Expenditures broken down by department. And then the next item is an update on the ARPA, or American Rescue Plan Act. It didn't change here. Let's see. Oh, do I need to ask IT to next slide? Whoop. Whoop. Okay, this is going well. All right. So this is a workshop, so please feel free to stop me at any time. All the directors from the different departments are here, so if you have a specific department question, feel free to stop. So the budgets do tell the story of the city. In the packet, you saw 5 columns for each department, and it tells what's happened in the past, what's going on in the present. The middle column in your packet is the current fiscal year that we're ending June 30. And then the 2 right columns are the projected budget for the next 2 years. This work session will focus just on the general fund. The enterprise fund and fiduciary funds are what they are. We will be bringing those back on June 13th in the full packet. And this is not only a finance document. This is for the city. This was a collaborative effort. I got to thank all the directors. We spent a lot of fun times together. Fun for me, not for them. But we did spend a lot of time not only just on what their needs are for the next 2 years, but personnel allocations. Over 2 years, an employee may be in one department, and then over 2 years end up working in a different department. So it's good to get a refresh every 2 years and know that the allocations are correct. Also gives all the departments time to input their goals and accomplishments. A little bit on the timeline. We had our first meeting with staff on March 1st, the day after the current year's budget amendments. So we had an evening to rest. That was on March 1st. Between March and April, I did meet with all department directors and staff. May 1st, we brought the draft presentation to the city manager and deputy city manager. Last week, May 10th, we brought a draft to the Ways and Means Committee. It was their recommendation to bring this forward to the council. And obviously today we have the draft presentation. And hopefully on June 13th, we're looking for final approval on the 2-year budget. So some of the key considerations we needed to think of when creating this 2-year budget. Post-pandemic economy. Obviously, the economy's forever changed from the pandemic. The online shopping has not slowed down, which is great for the city. A couple things, product lead times. When the city tries to buy a vehicle, it takes much longer. You go by a car dealership, they don't have the inventory that they normally have. And luckily, I think we handled the running out of toilet paper, so that one has been taken care of. Possible recession. Ernie and myself, we get updates almost on a weekly basis from either our investment team or economists. And if you ask 20 different people if there's going to be a recession, I think you'd get about 20 different answers. We don't believe there is going to be anything significant. If there is a small slowdown for a short period of time, that may happen, but nothing we see in the future, and our budgets will reflect that. Banking worries. You're aware about 2 months ago, we had 2 banks that had some significant problems. Happy to report, the city has no involvement with those banks. Our money is safe with Citizens Bank. Obviously, inflation. I looked up a couple stats just to give you guys. 2 years ago, or from 2 years ago, gas is up 22%. New vehicle costs up 20% from 2 years ago. Hotels and lodging up 31%. So some of these budgets, you'll see increases in education, travel for work, that they are increases, but this is a nationwide issue. Interest rates, obviously, about right at this time when this budget was made 2 years ago, federal funds rate was 0 to 0.25%, and today they are at 5 to 5.25%. So just another item that we have to consider. And lastly, liability insurance conditions. I actually sit on the board. I'm the president for PERMA, who we get all of our insurance through. And obviously, the insurance market has gone bad. We had a lot of good years, and just it seems like anybody's suing a city. The juries are anti-police, it turns into, that they are just awarding significant amounts. And for the insurance market, they have the largest year-to-year increase since 1992. So we are not alone in that increase. But we're not all doom and gloom. You'll see in the budgets, the city's moving in the right direction and things are good. A couple other discussion items to think about are possible potential additional revenues. For example, the City Council approved for the moving forward on the Prop 218 water increase. Now that's an enterprise fund. It is not a general fund, but as you know, in the past, the general fund has had to supplement. We have entered into a tax sharing agreement with March Joint Powers Authority and other neighboring cities. That will be in this budget. And also with the expansion of the city to increase sales tax revenue coming in from Amazon, Forever 21, Chick-fil-A, In-N-Out, and et cetera. On to the general fund reserves. The reserves represent excess revenues over expenditures since the city has kept financial records. The city has adopted a benchmark of 35% minimum of the city's general fund reserves, and the city's reserve levels are audited by our auditors, Rams or Rogers Anderson, Melody, and Scott. I'm happy to announce tonight we are projecting an estimated increase of total reserves from 75% to 82% for the year ending 21-22. The first 4 columns you'll see here are individual portions of the reserve, and then those far right 2 columns, those are the totals from year to year. The blue is 2020, 21, and then the orange, here we go again, 21, 22. The non-spendable, this is a requirement to cover prepaid items and deposits. We have to put that to the side right off the top. We can't touch that. Committed, the second group of columns. This is a 35% threshold that's set by the City Council to cover current year expenditures. Next is assigned. These are also set by the City Council, and these total is $6.2 million. See, it doesn't change year to year. We have $3.4 million set aside for disaster preparedness, $1.3 million for vehicles and equipment, $1.3 million for major capital improvement, and lastly, a budget contingency of $200,000. Lastly, the assigned. You can see this is the reserves that the City Council can touch if you feel need. This is, as you see, for year ending 2021, we're at $15.7 million, and we're projecting, this is a projection for 23.3 million, so pretty good increase. On to our general fund reserves. First two columns on the left, those are the prior 2 years. Middle column is our current fiscal year. And then the next 2 years, the right two columns are the budgeted. You can see back in 2021, we're at 60.1 million. For current year, we're at 65.4 million. And for the budget, we're projecting for next year of 73.3 million, and then dropping slightly to 73.1 million for 24-25.
And what's the reason for that drop or expectation?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Why is there a drop?
So part of that is, I'm going to go into it. We have an engineering department coming in, and we have a big transfer in to help pay for the setup of that engineering.
Got it. Thank you.
Yes. So where does all the general fund revenues come from? Obviously, the largest portion is sales and use tax, 28.2 million or 38%. Property tax is next at 11.5 million or 16%. Transfers in of 6.6 million of 9%. Vehicle license fee in lieu, 9.2 million or 13%. Other taxes, 9 million, 12%. Cannabis tax is 5.2 million or 7%. And lastly, franchise fees of 3.4 million or 5%.
So can you go back one more?
Yes.
Back? So the VLF fees are our third largest revenues?
That would be our fourth, sorry. Yes, you're right. No.
Third.
Yes, you are correct.
Yeah.
I
third.
thought I'd put those around in order, but it must have switched.
And I just want to say that's why we have so many car washes and they're doing well, because apparently we have a lot of vehicles.
A lot of vehicles.
In our city.
I believe you gave a...
575,000 registered vehicles in the city of Paris.
Yes.
And that was for a couple of years, yeah. 575,000 vehicles, vessels. It could be a motorhome, it could be a motorbike, it could be a boat, it could be
Right.
cars, but the majority of those are cars.
Yeah.
And we are at 21 car washes in our city, and still a few more in the hopper being built, and none of them have shut down.
Yeah.
And I just want to point that out, that the third largest revenue is VLF fees because of the amount of vehicles we have in our city.
Yes.
So, next to Starbucks, own a car wash.
Next, so our largest income for the general fund is the sales tax, sales and use tax. That's 7.75%. City of Paris is one of there are quite a few cities, but the majority of cities in California have raised additional sales tax. We have not. How does that 7.75% split? Well, just about 4% goes back to the state general fund. 1.5% goes to county realignment. 1% there in the gray on the left side comes back to the city of Paris. 0.5% goes to county public safety, and 0.5% goes to Measure A. And lastly, 0.25% goes to county transportation fund. Next, we have the general fund expenditures. Again, left two columns are the prior 2 years, current year is in the middle, with the budgeted amounts, far right two columns. See, back in 2021, we're at 48.3 million. Current year, we're estimating 62.1 million. And for the next 2 years, 23-24, 73.2 million. And then again, dropping slightly down to 73.1 million for 24-25. So how do we spend that general fund money? This is a breakdown by department. The largest portion is 24 million, 33% for police. Fire is 7.3 million or 10%. Community services is 10.1 million or 14%. Public works, 7.6 million, 10%. Engineering comes in at 3.3 million, 4%. This is that new department that is being set up this year. Development services comes in at 9.3 million or 13%. Administration is 7.1% or 10%. Finance, 1.4 million, 2%. And IT at 2.8 million, 4%. This is the same information I was showing in the slides with the graphs, but here it is numbers if you like numbers versus graphs. You can see the personnel, the total is from the current year is 62.1 million. We're increasing 73.2 million. This may seem like a significant amount. However, just the personnel for the new engineering department is 1.1 million of that. And I will go into detail when I go by department. We expect to have a surplus by the third year for the engineering department. It's just an initial setup cost. So there you can see current year we're at 62.1 million, moving up to 73.2 million, and then again dropping back down for 24-25 to 73.1 million. Here's a graph, historical graph for the budget surplus or deficit. Proud to say that there are no deficits on this slide. For fiscal year 2021, we came in with 11.8 surplus. 21-22, we had a $16 million surplus. For 22-23, we're projecting a 3.3 million. That number will likely change, probably not significantly. And for the budgeted numbers that are in your packet today, we have very small surpluses of 66,000 and 54,000. This is pretty routine. We go very conservative with the revenues, and we go over on the expenses. We do have new positions in this budget, and likely our budget assumes that that employee is hired starting July 1st, which is not likely. Next, I'm going to go rather quickly through all the departments, try to keep this quick. You'll see graphs. I'll start with the first one. This just gives you a flow for the 3 years of what's changed, any major changes within the department, and then I'll point out the bullet points. Starting out with City Council, major increase, or not a major increase, $12,000 increase in operations. And this is majority of an increase in council travel, $60,000 decrease in personnel. With some of these departments, you will see some of the personnel have decreases. This is what I mentioned when I sat with the directors and we reallocated all the employees to what they are currently at versus what they were originally set at 2 years ago. City Manager Department, we have a $190,000 increase in salary and benefits and a $5,000 increase in operations. Human Resources, we have a $250,000 decrease in salary and benefits and a $17,000 increase in operations. Self-funded insurance, like I mentioned earlier, the insurance market is terrible to say the least right now. We don't have control of it. All we can do is all the preventative measures that we can. We've had PERMA out looking through our property to make sure we can do everything to avoid a trip and fall by a citizen, anything like that. Internal Service, $25,000 increase in operations with a $25,000 decrease in total department expense. City Attorney, we have a $15,000 increase for city attorney expenses. City Clerk, only change was a $5,000 increase in department expense. Finance, no increase in operations. However, we have a $331,000 increase for additional full-time staff. Information Technology, $141,000 increase in capital outlay for server upgrades and switches, and $580,000 increase for additional full-time staff. Engineering, you can see it's quite a jump from the prior 2 years since there wasn't one. And here we can see the personnel portion of the first year is 1.1 million. Operations coming in at 274,000 with the capital outlay of 1.9 million. That 1.9 million, we have money set aside to, that's that transfer in. Mr. Mayor, you were asking about the reduction in revenues. So that's a one-time to set up the department. Revenues and expenditures are expected to balance out by fiscal year 24-25, and then we expect a department surplus by fiscal year 25-26, which is the third year. So we should be saving money at that point. For planning, we have a $522,000 increase in personnel for 2 additional positions, a $10,000 increase for additional office equipment. Building, we have a $350,000 increase in personnel with a $67,000 increase in subscriptions, mostly Excella, the planning software. Code enforcement, we have a $9,000 decrease in personnel with a $115,000 increase in contract staffing. And this is an effort to move to a full 7-day-a-week operation. Animal Services, a $280,000 increase in personnel, addition of animal control supervisor, $75,000 increase in contract staffing. Again, this is for Animal Services to move to a full 7-day-a-week operation. NPDS, or National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System, $43,000 decrease in personnel with a $45,000 decrease in contract services. Public Works Engineering, a $7,000 increase in personnel with a $45,000 increase in engineering services. Facilities Maintenance, $7,000 increase in personnel, $25,000 increase in field equipment. And I apologize, I didn't mention this in the beginning. These increases are from the current fiscal year budget.
The increase in personnel, the slide says decrease.
You are absolutely right. I will have to look back into that and see what happened.
It should be an increase?
Oh, $7,000 decrease in personnel. Yes, the blue from year to year is a $7,000 decrease.
But you said increase. Which one is it?
Oh, I apologize. On the slide, it's a decrease.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's correct, decrease.
I apologize.
No problem.
Street maintenance, we have a $111,000 increase in personnel, zero change in operations. The hot patch truck, which we're waiting on, was approved in a 22-23 budget. Fleet equipment, we have a $21,000 increase in personnel, $50,000 increase in fuel, and a $510,000 capital outlay for 5 vehicles and a skip loader. These will be funded both by general fund as well as special revenue funds such as gas tax for ones that qualify. For parks, we have a $939,000 increase in personnel, 4 new positions, $259,000 increase for additional security contract services, and $80,000 capital outlay due to electric equipment purchases. There's a new law coming out that requiring all new maintenance equipment be electric. Rec services, $414,000 decrease in personnel. This is again due to reallocations, looking by each employee to see where they're actually working compared to where they were 2 years ago. So we don't have less employees, we're just reallocating to where they're supposed to be. $60,000 increase in Christmas lighting contract services, and $256,000 decrease in total department expense. Community Services Leisure, we have a $274,000 increase in personnel, 2 additional full-time and 2 additional part-time employees, and a $127,000 decrease in operations expense. Community Services Sports, $60,000 decrease in personnel, again due to reallocation, $20,000 increase in contract staffing with a $20,000 increase in contract services. Community Services Media, we have a $54,000 increase in personnel and a $75,000 increase in the city newsletter. I believe this is to add on a Spanish version of the newsletter as well. Senior Services, a $67,000 decrease in personnel with a $45,000 decrease in contract staffing. Public Health, $156,000 increase in personnel, 2 new additional full-time positions with a $5,000 increase in operations. Police Services, I didn't even mention there the increase, $967,000 increase. This is with the expansion of the shot spotter as well as the regular increases year to year. Fire Services,
Hold on, we've got a question on the police. Can you go back?
Yeah. Quick question.
yes.
I know sometimes the police, they release their increase for the, maybe the sheriff's can help me out with that. They release their increase a little bit after our budget. Is there an inkling as to how much that increase will be?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Well, I know sometimes we'll vote on our budget and then they'll release their increase for contract services. I remember one year, it might have been like 2017, we were off by a lot. So did we factor that in
Yes, typically year to year, we over budget with the police services, and then when we get closer to the end of the year, we will do a budget amendment and pull down from the savings.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yes,
Councilman
but
Rapp.
typically, when does that come out? I know it's like later on.
It's
isn't it?
typically, it's typically in around February is when we usually get that. That's around the same time we do our mid-year budget. So we'll make any adjustments at that point as well.
Okay, thank you.
We're not gonna be way off this year based on their increase. But it's a good question still to ask.
Yeah. Fire services, 1.6 million increase to fill a new squad position. This will help the response times and not taking up a full fire engine or what are those? A quint. And also a $250,000 capital outlay for the new squad. Emergency services, $109,000 increase for Riverside County contract. And we'll be pulling those savings from the prior year. We had budgeted for in the current fiscal year, I apologize, but we're still waiting for the invoices to come in. And with that, myself, all the directors are happy to answer any questions you guys may have.
Very good, Matt, thank you. Council, anybody have any questions?
Quick question on our pension. Where was that on here?
So that is in the personnel.
That's in the person.
Yes, that payment. Yeah, we always put in a little bit extra. And currently, the most recent PERS valuation we have, I believe we were 4 million? We were 4 million overfunded as of June 30, 2021.
Good.
We haven't gotten a 22 year yet, and we're waiting to see where that's at.
Okay.
So did we build it into our budget so that we wouldn't fall into a deficit like we had?
Yes, even though we're overfunded as of 21, we're still putting money in there in the expense to keep paying.
Always better to
and
have
stay
more than
overfunded.
less. Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, anybody else? I see nobody in the queue. All right, appreciate your report. Thank you. Everybody's
Thank you.
happy.
I'll just stay up here for the next item.
Okay. So item 4B is the American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA Expenditures Update, introduced by Director of Finance, Matthew Shank.
Thank you again, Honorable Mayor. Yes, this is just an update for the ARPA, or American Rescue Plan Act. So ARPA was signed by President Biden on March 11, 2021. It was a $1.9 trillion package to combat.
Can you stop
Yes,
real
sir.
quick? It's my bad. I didn't ask for public comment.
Oh,
Let me go back. Any member, it's all staff. Any members in the public wish to speak on item 4A? Seeing none, thank you. We'll close the public comment. Okay, you can continue on, Mr. Shank. Sorry about that.
no, not a problem. Again, this is American Rescue Plan Act update. It was signed by President Biden March 11, 2021, $1.9 trillion package to combat COVID-19. Paris was allocated $22.1 million. We received 2 installments. May 19th, we received $11 million, and June 6th of 22, we received the second payment of $11 million. On August 26th, the city approved the uses of ARPA. Obviously, we received the $22.1 million. As of April 30th, we have spent $9.9 million of that, or approximately 45%. The balance remaining is $12.1 million. ARPA originally had a deadline of 12/31/24. However, since then, they have extended that to 12/31/26. These next 2 slides are simply just screenshots to look through. We're in the packet as well for each individual department between Public Works or IT, Economic Development. And that is part of our budget is I met with each department and director regarding trying to spend that money as quickly as possible. We don't want to get down towards the end of this and have to send any money back. All the projects that are in ARPA are still moving forward. A lot of it's been waiting for contractors to get the work done because some of them are pretty significant projects. And that is my update for ARPA. Be happy
Great.
to answer any questions.
Can you go back to the slide where it shows The extension for paying it off.
Oh, yes.
So that being said, are we on track to keep on spending what we originally planned on doing by 24, or are you going to allow it to go over?
That's a great question. Yeah, we've still pushed to have everything expensed by 24, even if we have the contracts set. So even though if the work's not being done, but we have the contracts executed and we're just waiting for the time, that way, because I think, Stephen, if the contract's signed, then we're good. Yes. So if the contract is signed to have the work done, then we would not have to give it back at the end of ARPA.
Got it.
Mr. Mayor, if I may as well, over here. We also want to have this spent as soon as possible, and there's been
Sure.
some discussion and at some levels that money might not be there through.
Well,
the
I
end.
mean, we're dealing with the state, so
Exactly.
notoriously that can disappear if we don't.
Exactly.
I'd
So-
rather spend it quickly than let it sit there.
So Matt and the directors have prioritized spending that money and moving certain projects up to the top to have those spent first, and then looking at other ways to spend this money to ensure it meets all the requirements of the ARPA as well.
Very good. All right, Councilman, do you have any questions? Councilman Rab?
Yes, just want to congratulate staff for working toward expending the ARPA funds. I know when we attended the National League of Cities Conference in DC, they brought up the fact that a lot of cities are not expending those funds and that they were going to run out at the time, we believe 2024. But it's good that we're on track to expend the funds. We've already expended over 9 million of them, so just keep it up. Thank you.
I don't see nobody else in the queue. While we're here, it's not about ARPA, but just something I just thought about. And maybe on a biweekly communication, can we give us some numbers on what we spend on street repair, whether it's potholes or actual grind, what's that terminology? Grind and overlay? That's a whole new street, right? Because maybe we need to start thinking about, I know we were working on some other projects for light industrial, but I'm talking about in our general streets, maybe we need to start thinking about putting some money in addition to what we're doing already, because it doesn't seem like we're doing much with the money that we get from taxes and SB 1, is it? SB 1 or 8?
Gas tax,
At
those
1?
things, yeah.
All right, Matt, thanks again.
Thank you.
You don't want to come back for any more? You're done? Okay, well, if everybody's done, item 5 is our adjournment. Thank you, everybody.
Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, City Attorney. Any public comment on this matter, Madam Clerk?
No, sir.
Anybody in the audience wishing to speak at this time? Okay, seeing none, we will close this item and move on to item 5, which is our adjournment. Thank you, everybody, for coming, and go home and watch the rest of the Laker game. Oh.